Hello, listeners. We have a bit of an exclusive here at We Are the Pride. We were able to get a listening device into Chris Fagan's office. Yes, we did. And it was just after David King had made his outrageous claims about Joe Danaher being a selfish footballer, not being a team man, and blah, 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 all that other rubbish that he said that turned out to not be true. But at the time, Mr. Fagan, Coach Fagan, Dad, whatever the players like to call him, had decided he needed to have a chat with Joseph Danaher, and our listening device picked up the whole conversation. So, at the risk of getting sued by the football club, I'm going to play just a little highlights package to try and beat any sort of copyright breaches as well. So here it is for your enjoyment.
You know who I am?
Yeah, the old coach from the 80s.
What'd you lose that by? 40 points?
That would be 45.
Sometimes a game like that really sticks with you and you can never shake it off.
I got no complaints. It's quiet here. It bothers me.
You know what separates the winners from the losers, kid?
The score.
Getting back up on that horse after you've been kicked in the teeth. Is that how you want to be remembered?
I don't want to be remembered at all.
Think it over. Could be part of something.
So as you now know, that entire conversation really happened, and that's really Joe Danaher and Chris Fagan. I swear, I promise you, it really is. And anyway, our listening device somehow made its way into Chris Fagan's pocket. And during a game against the Richmond Football Club recently on the Saturday night, which we won by 119 points, ironically, the same margin that Port Adelaide Power lost the 2007 Grand Final by. Not that that has anything to do with us, but don't we all enjoy hearing about that? Anyway, back to the story, and we forgot that the listening device is still with Chris Fagan, and we picked up this little snippet of conversation from Chris and Joe at the quarter time huddle. Here it is.
I want the ball.
Winners always do.
So there you have it, all that exclusive audio between the Big Joe Show and Daddy Fagan. All, as I said previously, really happened, and that is really them. So now, let's hit that bloody theme music and get into the show. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to that winning feeling. Have you got it? Can you feel it? I know I can. And I reckon this bloke who's about to join me can feel it too. It's my co-host, Al McGovern. Al, how you going?
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Ash, how are we?
Good, mate. Good. Yourself?
Oh, mate, it's a bloody great feeling, isn't it?
Well, I think what makes it even greater, and even though we're playing basically their under-14s team, but still beating that mob in the yellow and black, or as one of their players, Tom Lynch, famously called it, the black and gold, and he got roasted for that.
True.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. You say, we played an underdeveloped team, and there was a lot of no-name players on their list, but they still had 11 of their premiership players on their list.
Yeah, well, that's right. And a lot of those guys, well, not a lot, but enough of those guys that were in their team were premiership players or played in sort of their good era.
Yeah, and a bunch of them are still pretty young too. Like, obviously Dusty's getting up there, and Nankervis isn't super young, but like guys like Rioli and
Prestia.
Prestia. Who's Who's the young Indigenous fellow that was popping off recently?
Shea Bolton.
Yeah, Bolton. He's like only, what, like 23, 24?
Yeah, something like that. And look, I don't even know. Some people say his name is definitely Shay, and then you get others that go, no, it's definitely Shy.
Yeah,
I
I
I'm
have no
gonna,
idea.
yeah, I'm gonna run with Shay because that's what all the people from Richmond seem to say. So,
Yeah. But he's only like 20, at least 24, right? Like he couldn't be much older than that.
yeah, not much older. I mean, look, I think he's coming into free agency age for the first time,
There you go.
maybe this year or next year. But
Yeah.
big
And then you
talk.
guys like Jaden Short and Baker and stuff, they're all like pretty young still.
Yeah, Baker's probably, I reckon, no older than 23.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So just before we get into the footy, as much as
Mhm.
we're both itching to get into the best
Yeah.
part of our weekend, I'm just going to play you something, and I hope this comes through my phone
Mm-hmm.
because I'm going to put my phone up to the microphone because I still haven't figured this out.
All right.
All right,
We're watching
and
Boomer Tech in motion right here.
yeah. So recently we gave a bit of a shout out to another podcast called Down the Guts, a footy
Yep.
podcast run by a couple of guys who are absolute footy nuffies like ourselves, and
That's right.
yeah, a little message popped up in the inbox this morning telling me to listen to their latest episode from about the 25 and a half minute mark. And this, if it works, is what I heard.
Before we leave Brisbane, I've just got to
Is that coming through?
Yep.
A bit of a shout out because this is a podcast that I've started listening to because obviously we like to look at a very well-rounded view of the league.
We try not to be too centric.
Although, our biases do jump in from time to time.
100%. I mean, if you look at the time spent talking about each team, Yartapulti and Adelaide.
Well, let's face it, they're the teams we know the best. And so across the competition, there are podcasts that obviously do club podcasts. And it's so good to hear what people think of their own team. Because let's face it, supporters and people who really look closely into a particular team know their team better than anyone else. So for Brisbane, I've been recently listening to a great little podcast called We Are the Pride Brisbane Lions podcast. And they do some great stuff. It's actually taught me a bit about Brisbane because obviously, as I said, I've watched them quite a bit, but I don't know the ins and outs of their players. They go through a bit of history. They talk about some stuff that's happened in the past as well as what's currently happening. And they just give such a good view of the club. And I think it's actually helped my understanding of Brisbane and maybe how to analyse Brisbane. So, yeah, I just want to give a shout out to them. And, if they do want to collab, I would not be against it. I think they do good things, and I would love to bring their knowledge in, maybe for a Brisbane list management meeting.
Perfect segue, because today on...
There you go.
Gee, that sounds good.
Yeah. So, I've been listening to them a fair bit lately, and they've been obviously listening to us as well. And it's good to get some good feedback, I guess, from your peers.
Yeah, no, that was excellent.
Yeah, and for guys like these guys really know their footy. They go really deep into the ins and outs of everything, and they know they understand modern footy really, really well. And yeah, they appreciate what we do. And yeah, there's been a few messages back and forward. The pressure's on now because they did say that they're going to use us as their source for all Brisbane information.
Yeah, yeah, no pressure at all.
Yeah, but no, look. For the listeners, this is just a bit of a bromance going on, as you can tell here, and really, really good podcast, Down the Guts. Check it out, and yeah, they do talk about everyone. Unlike ourselves, who we just know stuff about one team.
Well, we do go on tangents about other teams, though.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because I got some verbal feedback today saying, hey, if you guys talked about other teams, you'd probably get more listeners. I said, it's funny you mentioned that because you clearly don't listen to us.
Yeah, we do go on random tangents about all kinds of teams, usually like within proximity of, us playing that team, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but of course if we cast a wider net, I'm sure we'd get catch some bigger fish. But yeah, I mean, obviously we're very happy. We're big Lions nuffies, but it's always good to, it'd be great to have a chat to those blokes. Yeah, it's always good to get other people's opinions in and just branch out a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, so I reckon we might hit them up around about the buy round, and yeah, like a bit of a Brisbane list management chat would be something good, because there is a bit going on, obviously, from that point of view with our club.
Yeah, definitely.
And I will get to one of our potential mid-season recruits a bit later on.
Oh, have you got some mail on that? Have you?
There's probably not mail now because it's. Anyway, I'll get to two, but so just a bit of general news that's going on around the place.
Yep.
Lions related, the majority. So Mick Malthouse, famous coach, love him or hate him.
Yeah.
There's not too many more passionate people about the game. I don't always agree with Mick. In fact, generally I don't agree with him, but some things I do agree with, and this one in particular is that he came out today in the media and he said that he thinks Sir Doug Nicholls should be inducted into the AFL Hall of Fame as a pioneer of the Indigenous branch of the game.
Yep.
And look, why the hell wasn't he already in there? I mean,
I actually thought that he was already. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised that he wasn't.
They named the rain out. Start again. Jeez, I'm falling over my words here. I'm emotional. Okay. They named the round after him. The two rounds basically. The split round or whatever they want to call it these days. The guys. I mean, he was the trailblazer and the pioneer. So I had a friend ask me on the weekend why was it called Sir Doug Nicholls round, and I went into detail about how he was the trailblazer for Indigenous players. He certainly wasn't the first, and he wasn't the first at the Fitzroy Football Club either.
That's right.
Yeah, Joe Johnson being the first. But yeah, so Doug was the one who really put the pavers down for all the rest of the Indigenous players to walk on.
Yeah, definitely.
And as well as all the other things he's done outside of football. And his grandson, Adam, is still a massive fan of the Brisbane Lions as well. Most people know Adam Lambton Nicholls, really, really lovely guy. And I am going to try and get him on pretty soon as well to talk about Sir Doug.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, so moving on to the next bit of general news. So we know Eric Hipwood was suspended for a week for his tackle on Nick Vlostone. That was awarded as a free kick to Hipwood at the time, which I think a lot of people thought, oh, that was a bit generous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, I was nonplussed. I was like, yeah, okay, we'll take it, but
And we're also not challenging it either.
Yeah, that's the next part I was going to get to. So I thought we might have challenged it based on the fact that it was given as a free kick, but no, look, I'm not offended that we aren't. I was disappointed at first because I thought, we're going to back our boys in, but look,
Yeah, you can't challenge them all, and I think we got extremely lucky with the Charlie Cameron one a few weeks ago. So, like you said to me earlier, I think we just kind of cut our losses and just don't rock the boat too much and just let it go through the keeper.
Yeah, especially having Lionel Hutz as our representative at the Charlie Cameron hearing. So a little rumor that's doing the rounds today, and I won't drop any names, but a friend of the two of us who may or may not have been on the show once before.
We've got lots of mutual friends, mate.
We surely do. Has perhaps floated a rumor that we may be in the market for Daniel Rioli.
Seriously?
Yeah, so the Herald Sun put a thing up today. John Ralph, our good mate, Ralphie boy, reckons that the Gold Coast are going to give up 2 first-rounders for him.
Oh,
which, look,
that's a steep price.
We all know how much I love the Rioli family and every member of it. I've said it enough times, but I don't think he's worth 2 first-rounders.
No.
But
I don't think many people are in the competition, to be honest.
No, you absolutely not. He's 27. He's a premiership player multiple times. He plays a really good roll down off halfback. He's speedy. He uses the ball pretty well most of the time. He can have a few little brain fades, but who doesn't?
Yeah.
My question is, do we need another guy running off the halfback when that seems to be a big focus of our recruitment in recent years?
My initial reaction is probably not, to be honest. I think we're at the stage now where we've got so much talent on the list, and we've got even more coming through. There's two very high-end kids that we are almost guaranteed to get this year, coming through the draft. We've got a few guys out injured at the moment, but I just don't know how we would fit all of those guys in. Like, where would we fit Rioli in with, everyone else that's, Archie, Kitty, Wilmot, like, where would you fit him in? Like, he's a great player, but where would you fit him?
Yeah, and Dan wouldn't come cheap either. Like,
no.
we wouldn't have the draft picks to trade for him. And
no, not unless we got rid of someone else or something else. But as it stands, no way. We don't have enough for him.
Look, if the Goldies are offering 2 first rounders, we're not matching that. We are, we've got other priorities. As much as, I would have loved to have had junior boy Cyril a couple of years back when he so-called retired at 28. Well, he did retire.
Well, there was that strong rumor going around that he was a chance coming to
us. I think that was just something someone on the internet made up, probably on Big Footy. But let me just say, I was had my big Kev moment there. I was a bit excited.
Yeah.
So for the Victorian fans, mainly the juniors, coming up in June, we have the it's 8th of June, I believe, the day after we play the Bulldogs, or it might be the day after that. It's that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We have the junior member clinic, which I don't think my kids are participating this year. They're sort of starting to feel like they're a bit old.
Yeah.
They've done it every year for a lot of years when we did have it. And we're also having our, what they call a fan fest, which is just like a family day afterwards. So that's going to be at the place where it usually is, which is the hockey and netball and everything else center, I think it's called. That's
the Everything Else Center. That's the official name, is it?
It's the name the government
gave. It's on the sign out the front.
Yeah. Look, when Jeff Kennett was premier, he stumbled over his words like I always do, and he goes, "You know what? We'll just call it the Everything Else Center." And one other thing. So this is not Lions related, but it kind of is. But and I'll explain how as I go through it quickly. So the call with Isaac Rankin being pinged for running too far with the ball in the Crows game against Collingwood. That allegedly cost them the win. Now, he kicked it to a pack, so there was no guarantee that was going to be a goal.
Yeah.
But the Crom fans have come out in force on the internet, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And all the Collingwood haters have also joined in them. Graham Corns, who, well, he's a father of Chad and some other bloke who was an average footballer.
Is that firefighter guy?
Yeah, that's his other son. Chad was the one
right.
Chad was the one that was a good footballer. His other one, he's some guy who was a firefighter for 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And he's come out with this little gem. I think he still does a radio show on 5AA. I shouldn't really promote it because I'm not contractually obliged to promote 5AA.
No.
He just basically said there is no way that Nick or Josh Dacos would have been called for that, or Scotty Pendlebury or someone like that. There is no way. And our buddies at the Raw, who I will be bringing up later, who have got a bit of a bee in their bonnet about the Brisbane Lions, I've got a video out that they pinched from Fox Footy, and they're whinging about one of our players apparently running as far as Rankin and not getting pinged.
Yeah, I think I know where this is going.
Yeah, so I'll get back to the Raw, whether it's later tonight or later in the week. I've got a bit to say about that very amateur organisation. But yeah, Graham Corns, mate, you're 94 years old. You've had your day. One of your sons was a good footballer, the other one wasn't, and you came over to the VFL in the late 70s and did nothing. So shut up, mate. I get the sentiment he's trying to get that, South Australians hate Victorians and they think that the Victorians are biased against them. Mate, the bloke ran 24 metres, kicked it to a pack. There was never going to be the goal. There was never going to be a goal coming from that to win that game. Then the Crows, like the week before in the draw against us, had plenty of other chances. to win.
This had echoes of the right in front of me call
Yeah,
from Crows fans.
yeah, the old Crom Patrol.
Yep,
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll get into some key points about the game then.
sure.
Um, I'll go through a couple, and you interject whenever you feel like you need to.
Sure.
Add your 25 cents to my 5 cents.
My special comments.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you are the oh, geez. I'm going to say you're probably not the Daisy Pierce of the podcast. You're probably more like the Daisy Thomas.
Are you the BT going? Well, that was a great little addition.
Hey, I don't know if getting promoted from Kelly Underwood to BT is really a promotion or
Yeah, true.
a demotion.
Bit of a sideways step, I think.
Yeah, so look, we kicked off with 6 unanswered goals before Richmond scored. That was in the first 20 minutes. 10 goals overall before Richmond got their first goal to a bloke who's supposedly a defender, Noah Bolter, but necessity had him down forward.
And that wasn't until the second quarter as well.
Yeah, that was a fair way into the second quarter from memory.
Yep.
That was a blistering start for us. And realistically, for the majority of the game, we were blistering. I know Richmond got a couple of runs on here and there, couldn't capitalise at various points. They missed a lot of easy shots at goal. It was almost like they were playing our game and we were playing the game they used to play.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mirroring of a few years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like a real sliding doors moment for the two teams in some way. Yeah, and I just want to bring up a narrative from people such as my bloke I do respect and admire, Mike Whiting, and a few others in the AFL branch of the media, is that they're only bringing up that this was one of our biggest wins in the Brisbane history, leaving out the Fitzroy side of things, which is fairly significant because Fitzroy did win by 190 against Melbourne back in the late 70s. Still is the record.
Won by 190, or that was the final?
No, that's what they won by. They scored 238, I think. Now, Geelong did kick a higher score than that against the Bears, but the margin was nowhere near it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Fitzroy, 190. The Bears' biggest win was 162 versus Sydney in 1993, which I believe was 31 years ago to the week.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I was 94, so yeah, that makes sense.
And yeah, the Brisbane Lions' biggest win was 141 versus Adelaide in 2004. So this is the second biggest win in the merged history of the club. It's important to say that, but also it's really equally important to mention that it's the 7th biggest in the combined club history, Bears, Fitzroy, and Brisbane Lions.
I think it's pretty crazy that, obviously Richmond's quite poor at the moment, but I would argue that we played poorer teams in the last couple of years when we were performing better and we had a larger number of better players on our list that weren't injured. But it's strange that it was this game that was the complete, well, I wouldn't say lit off, but don't even know how to describe it. It was just it was a massacre.
Yeah, it was like they opened up the valve on a fire hose, didn't they?
Yeah, but for it to have happened right now when we've had a pretty ordinary season to this point, and a good amount of our key guys are out injured. For it to happen now and not have happened a couple of years ago, say against West Coast or North Melbourne or one of those teams, it's quite astounding, really.
So yeah, Fagan's take on that was straight to the point. Really, he just said, "Oh, we turned up."
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's telling us that we haven't turned up previously, but look, at three-quarter time, I turned to my daughter and I just said, "Look, I hope we don't put the cue in the rack here or start playing tempo footy or whatever defensive footy, trying to maintain a lead. We need to really put the hammer down and make a statement here, and it has to be 100+ win."
Well, what I thought was going to happen when it was pretty clear that we were going to have a pretty good game was I thought that we'd cap out at around 140 at around three-quarter time, and then the boys would go into comfort mode.
Yeah.
and then maybe Richmond would kick the last like 5 of the game, and then we would, the boys would just go, oh yeah, but we still won by a lot. But they didn't
Yeah.
do that, to their credit.
Yeah, like normally that would be a 75-point win, and we'd be happy with that and accept it. But I think this had to be it's had to be one of those moments. And this is not a criticism of the club. We're not saying, the club's no good, the players are no good.
No,
we're just basing it on historical fact that generally we don't have the big 100-point wins. We have the 60 to 70-point wins against these lower base clubs because they do put in a bit of an effort against us. There's no doubt about it. That game against West Coast, the last game of the season a few years back,
yeah,
they ran us ragged for 3 quarters, and rightly so. They played good football.
Yeah.
But, we eventually got the job done, but not by a lot. But whereas, and there's been a couple against Gold Coast and North where we sort of, we've run up big margins and then, put the queue in the rack.
Yeah, just take the foot off the accelerator a bit.
Yeah, and those junk time goals are something we bring up a lot.
Yeah. It's a massive problem. And, you try and talk to other people about it, and they go, mate, you won by, X. What are you complaining about? And it's like, well, I'm not complaining. It's a good win's a good win, but I would just prefer if it, we could finish strong, as long as, as well as starting strong. And, have four quarters of consistency, because that's what I've been asking for a long time. Because even last year when we, made the grand final, there was not a lot of consistency, 4-quarter consistencies.
No, and there were too many junk time goals in the grand final, which for me was the moment I started to become a bit more ruthless about it.
Yeah.
Rather than just accept the the wins for the wins, but and it was just and that was basically, look, we were good enough to make a grand final. We were pretty much almost good enough to win it, but that cost us, and we have to be hard on that now.
Yep.
Because and it's not that we think, again, we don't think the players are no good. We think the players are good. We know they are. We know the players are good enough to win by 100 points against certain teams.
Well, that was what was so frustrating last year. Is like you said, we know the players are good. We know the players are capable of it, but it just felt like they were kind of being told, all right, that's enough. Let's go into, wrap the cotton wool on. We don't want any injuries. We got a long season ahead. Let's conserve a little bit. And it felt like that's what used to happen a lot.
Yeah.
But my theory about why it didn't happen in this game is because we had a pretty poor start to the season, and they wanted the confidence. They were like, the boys need a good win here to build some confidence. Just let them loose. Don't worry about wrapping the cotton wool for the last quarter. Don't worry about because we'd get a certain amount up, and then it would just be defensive mode for the whole quarter, or last 10 minutes of the last quarter or whatever. But it didn't have that. There were some plays where I think right towards the end where they started to get a bit more defensive, but it seemed like in previous games similar to this, they would have started that a lot earlier.
Yeah, well, that's it. And look, every time Richmond did try and get a run on at some point, we had the answers, and that's been a criticism by some of our fans and by some of the media, in that when other clubs do start to fight back, we crumble. Well, we haven't done it in this game.
Yep.
And look, me calling it Richmond's under 14s is probably a bit harsh, but
well, I mean, half their squad was a premiership winner, so it's a bit dramatic. It's funny to say, and there was a lot of inexperienced guys on that list, and they had 2 injuries during the game as well. And then they had a pretty serious one in the VFL, I heard as well. Someone did their ACL in the VFL.
So that was Sam Naismith, who actually plays at Port Melbourne generally, but he also is a Richmond VFL listed player. So it's a weird thing where he can actually play VFL for 2 clubs.
Yeah.
So he's a supplementary player for Richmond, and obviously he was required. He was formerly at the Swans, had a bad history of injuries for a long period. There was a time when him and Toby Nankervis were actually at the Swans back around 2016, where Naismith was probably the better ruckman.
Yeah, I kind of forget that Nankervis was the Swan.
Yeah. So, I can't remember. One of them played in the grand final against the Bulldogs that year in 16. Well, it's probably Naismith, because that probably was why Nankervis left at the end of that year.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, yeah, it's probably enough on that sort of stuff anyway. But
Mm.
one of the big things I put in my notes, we had 12 overall goal scorers,
Yes,
whilst still having two guys get five, Lohmann and Chuck.
that's right.
Plus, we had Rayner and Danaher kick three. Now, going by some of the comments I read here and there, you wouldn't have known Danaher kicked three. And to be honest, I thought he kicked one or two, and then I looked and I'm like, oh, he's got three.
Yeah.
Because I was so caught up in Lohmann and Chuck kicking five each.
Yeah,
And
no, they both had a pretty good game, Rainer and Danaher.
yeah. Rayner again, like he didn't play a full 4-quarter game, but when he got the ball, he puffed his chest out, pinned his shoulders back, and took guys on.
Yeah, he did what he did a few weeks ago when we were giving him massive props. We were like, gee, we hope this is, the new norm for him, but
Yeah,
it wasn't. And then he kind of went back in his shell for a few weeks, but then he had another really good game. So
yeah.
I worry that he's a bit of a downhill skier. Sometimes I'm not sure what to think of Rayner at the moment because he really does come out of his shell when there's a really good game. Like he's not the kind of guy that's gonna throw the team on his back when they're doing poorly. It just seems like if the team's already doing well, he's gonna have a really good game as well.
Yeah, look, and probably the guys who realistically can carry the whole entire team on their back and carry them to a win are few and far between anyway. So
That's
let's
true.
face it. Yeah, but
Maybe not even a win, but just like
Yeah.
to put some spark into the team.
yeah, but like Rayner. Look, there's no. I'm sure Cam himself would admit that he does lack a bit of consistency at times,
Mm.
but it's when he plays games like this where he does get that alpha male sort of presence about him that you love to see it.
Oh, look, his best is unreal, and it's there's not many players in the comp that can get to that level, but it's just unfortunate that he can't get there more often.
Yeah, no, that's it. And excuse me. So another bloke who he got himself on a scoreboard. He doesn't do it as much these days as what he used to. Is the Big O? He got a couple of goals.
Yep.
I thought he played really well. Not his best game of the year, but probably in his top three.
Yeah, he was very serviceable.
Yeah.
And he was up against Nankova, so he's a bit of a brute.
Yeah,
so,
he's
so I thought he did
big
pretty
man.
good.
And Logan Morris added a couple more.
Yeah. So I've got a little side note for that one as well.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna So obviously I've noticed something with Charlie, and you may have noticed it as well. So when Logan kicked one of his goals, there was a chance for both Charlie and Logan to mark the ball,
Yeah.
but it ended up in Logan's hands, and Logan kicked a quick goal, and Charlie looked really not happy with Logan for taking that shot.
Yeah, it was an
No.
interesting one, and it has been overblown by the media a little bit.
It has been, but I've also it's not an isolated incident. I
No.
notice it all the time, and I get kind of a bit confused with like I know he's the star. Him and Danaher are the stars of the forward line for us, like no doubt. Like you've got Lincoln McCarthy's who is actually my favorite player, but he's not.
Hey,
he's
you've
not
never said that before. I'm glad you brought it up for the first time.
Just reminding people where I sit.
Yeah.
And then we got guys like Rayner, we got guys like Zorko, Hipwood, all these other guys. But Bailey, who's been out injured for a little bit, but
Yep.
yeah, they all go through there. But I would say that the competition at large would say that Charlie and Danaher are probably the only quote unquote stars from our
Yeah.
forward line.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But Charlie has this. He has this thing where he feels like he's entitled to take all of the shots, and if someone else doesn't give him the ball, he gets quite like it looks like he's upset with them.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mixed thing because I agree that he does get like that. But so where I sit normally at the games of Victoria is pretty close to the goals, and you get a mixed bag with him. Sometimes he actually he will sort of get a bit chirpy with some of his teammates.
Yeah.
But quite often he's actually getting into himself. He has
Yeah.
this like if you see him slap his hand, that's when he's going at himself. He'd be like, "Come on, Chuck,
Oh,
what
for
are you
sure.
doing?" Yeah,
Yeah.
but if he doesn't slap his hand with his other hand, that's when he's getting into a teammate.
Yeah, look, and like obviously that was having to go at your teammates about that sort of stuff. It strikes memories of, like watching 80s and 90s football with your big key center, center
Yeah,
half forwards and stuff like that being like, your Dunstals and stuff where it's just like, just kick it to me, that's your whole job, just get the ball to me.
yeah, that was
Um,
the way they were coached as well. But
yeah.
I still remember Tony Lockett when he played for St Kilda. But this is probably about 93, 94 before he went to the Swans. And St Kilda had, it was like 16 or 17 straight goals with no points.
Yeah.
And Lockett was in the goal scorer on his own, and one of his teammates had a shot and shanked it instead of hitting him on the chest.
Yeah.
And he went right off. And I don't reckon it was a pleasant time in the showers after the game that day.
Oh no, definitely.
I think they ended up like 19 goals 2 or something. It was a record. I was probably against Fitzroy too, I think.
Yeah.
Sadly, but yeah, I hear what you're saying, and yeah, as I said, there's a bit of a mixed bag with Chuck. You've got to.
It is, and I don't see many other examples of guys in the forward line on our team ever really looking upset that someone took a shot on goal instead of passing it off to them.
Yeah,
I see it pretty regularly with Charlie. I don't see it much with the other forwards.
maybe he's on a goal by goal bonus.
Hey, look, it could be part of his paycheck. Who knows? And if that's the thing, then yeah, sure, give it to him every time.
money talks, mate.
I would back him for a goal on the run more than anyone on the list, but for a set shot, probably not so much.
Yeah, well, you can say the same about Danaher and Hipwood.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And we have many times, like on the run, 60 out, the two big boys, you're backing them in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So speaking of blokes who you back in, which we do week after week after week, our number one patron saint, Cal Ah Chee.
Yes.
That was a big hanger.
Blessed art thou, Ah Chee.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, that was Ripper, wasn't it?
Yeah, look, it was a bit of hands over the shoulders to get himself up, but who cares? Warren Kappa did that every week back in the 80s, and everyone loved it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to see more of it, and Speckies are so special because they don't happen as often anymore.
Yeah.
So when you see a good one, it pumps a really good feeling into you, and you go, "Oh, that's footy."
And it's really unique to our game. I know rugby union kind of has a variation of it.
Yeah.
Rugby league doesn't really have it. Israel Folau did a couple of things like that once or twice, but that was about it.
Maybe in his AFL career.
No. When he played for the Storm, he was good.
Giant star Israel Folau.
Giants, Reds, Waratahs, Broncos.
I've been everywhere, man. The football player, isn't he?
Yeah, I reckon he even played for one of the Sydney-based NRL clubs as well. I don't know. I'm not going to name a team in case I'm wrong and someone ats me, because majority of our listeners are Queenslanders and know more about the game than I do.
Sure.
But yeah, well, I mean, the Speckies, you want to see them every week. And it doesn't matter who does it. It could be the team you hate the most and the player you hate the most. But if you see it, you're getting up and standing up.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Whoa.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. Everyone
It's
loves
one of those things with, I don't know if you watch them, but from time to time, I always watch videos of Americans like reacting to seeing AFL for the first time.
Yeah, I've watched a couple during the COVID lockdowns when they were first sort of hitting the scene.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because we're so familiar with their sports, but they've got no idea about what's going on over here.
Yeah.
So when they see highlights packages or even those videos that the AFL themselves put together to basically introduce AFL to Americans, like they even do an American voiceover for it. And when it gets time for the Speckies, they're like, "Are you allowed to jump on the opposition player? Like that's crazy."
And they love the fact that we don't wear helmets or pads.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, what was that band back in the early 2000s? They were a bit of an emo band. They had an album, no pads, no helmets, just balls.
Oh,
and I was like, that is Aussie rules down to right there.
That's it.
Yeah, I think it was a Simple Plan or just Simple Plan, whatever they're called. I
was a big Simple Plan fan.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah, for sure. I like, all that kind of music, punk rock, variations, new metal, all that sort of stuff.
Bit of power pop and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
Bit of Blink
they all kind
180.
of blend into each other. Yeah, Blink 182,
Well, hey,
Linkin Park, all that sort of stuff.
Tom DeLonge put out a tweet back when it was Twitter prior to being X.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he was having a land of their fans, of which I am also one, I must admit, but he actually said the correct pronunciation of our band name is Blink 182.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
But wouldn't there be a hyphen after the 8 if that was? Yeah, I don't know. I think he's a bit of a strange cat, that Tom.
Yeah.
He took some time away from the band to become a UFO researcher. I'm not sure if you knew that.
Yeah, and then he actually had a band on the side that was dedicated to writing songs about aliens as well.
Yeah. Incredible voice,
Yeah.
incredible songwriter, but yeah, just a very interesting cat.
Oh, like late 90s, they were just peak punk rock, weren't they? Like,
Oh yeah.
Damn It and Josie and songs like that.
Yep. All the small things.
Yeah, and what's my age again and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was so good. Yeah, which is we might have to introduce band of the week.
Oh, that list could go on and on forever.
Mate,
I have so many recommendations.
I have got one Spotify playlist that's got 360 hours of music.
Jesus.
From the 50s through to the present day, and it has every possible genre you can imagine. It even has
that's a bit of everything.
Even has some of Weird Al's poker stuff.
Weird Al's got some great songs. I love Weird Al.
Have you seen the movie?
No, but I heard Radcliffe did a great job.
Daniel Radcliffe was awesome. No, Weird Al made the movie, right?
Yeah.
And he took the absolute mickey out of himself, and everybody's going, "Oh, that's not how it really happened, though, is it?" And I'm like, no, it's just Weird Al being Weird Al. That's his humor. So if the movie's called Weird, the Al Yankovic story, if you haven't seen it, listeners, and you have a wicked sense of humor like I do, watch it.
Yep. Yeah, no, I've heard good things. I've been meaning to get around to that one, actually.
Yeah.
And that actually reminds me. So, Paul Rudd, the guy that played Ant-Man in the Marvel movies?
Yes.
So there's a famous picture that goes around. And it's like him at Halloween, and he's got all of his kids and his kids' friends, and they're all dressed up in Marvel costumes because, their dad's one of the big, Marvel characters.
Yep.
And instead of dressing up as Ant-Man, his character, he dresses up as Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh, nice. And it's funny. Weird Al actually got interviewed on SEN once, like years and years ago.
Wow.
And I have no idea why they had him on because he never talked about sport at all in the whole thing. But
yeah,
geez, it was a fascinating interview. I wish that was online somewhere.
Was that Waitley or who interviewed him?
That was Mark Doran, who was back on the show talking like 05 to 07 sort of period.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Back when they used to do a show called Casual Friday on the Fridays.
Yep.
Mark Doran, Daniel Harford, and someone who's probably not a favourite of many people these days, Rita Panahi. Ripper Rita, who's now on Sky News, which don't watch Sky News.
Yeah.
Because it's rubbish.
Oh, yeah, I forgot she's one of the major panelists there now, eh?
Yeah, I'm not politically charged at all. So, back to the footy. Lachie Neale. Hey, I predicted he'd get 40 plus. He got 36. I was close.
Hey, I predicted we'd hear Country Roads 3 times with the Gab. We got it 5 times.
Yeah,
so
we
that.
And I said Joe Danaher 5 plus, and he got 3. So he got 3-2, I think. So that's pretty close.
We got the right guys, but we got the swapped numbers for each other.
Yeah, Dane Zorko another 35. He's on fire, and Chris Fagan apparently said today or in the last day or so that he's hopeful that Zorko plays on for another year.
Oh, yeah, at least.
Now, my first thought was, they always say that about all their players. But then I thought, in the form he's in, I kind of hope it too.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be giving him I wouldn't give him a long contract because you never know. He could, his body could give out. But he's like, 36 now?
He'd have to be close to 36, I'd say.
Yeah, and I mean, there's the argument, he missed the first 5 years because he got overlooked and all that sort of stuff, so his body's not as worn out.
Yeah.
But, age is age, but he's in ripper form, better form this year than he had been for previous 2 years at least.
Yeah, easily. Yeah. And we love him here, obviously.
Oh yeah, massive Zorko fan.
Yeah.
Or as Chris Johnson called him, what was it?
Zane Dorco.
Zane Dorco, which will just be forever what I will call him.
That's
a great name.
That's apparently, so one of my kids brought up, that's not the first time someone's said that to him. They reckon it was either when he got awarded his All-Australian or when he won one of the club champion awards. One of those times he was called Zane Dorco by mistake as well. So, yeah, like
it's so good. I love it.
It is.
Whether Chris Johnson did it intentionally or not, I'll always love him for doing it.
Yeah, maybe because Jono still has a bit of a because like you saw him and Zorko hug each other like at one point as well. So they got a bit of a connection there.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So my next thing on my notes I'm going to bring up in a couple points later than what I was going to. So yeah, I thought like it was 27,000. The crowd's probably a little bit small, I guess, but for a Saturday night game with no school the next day or whatever. But it was easily the loudest our crowd has been all year at home, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I'd agree with that. I wasn't there, but for it to be less than a Q Clash was kind of surprising.
Yeah.
We got 30 when we played Suns a few weeks ago. So
yeah, and like a lot of people were saying at the time that we generally don't get big crowds for the Q Clashes. When we play Richmond, we generally do, but that's probably more on their fans than ours that they didn't show up.
Yeah, a lot of fair weather fans in that Richmond base where now that they're going down the ladder, we've seen that kind of drop off a bit, haven't we?
Yeah, that's right. And but the singing of Country Roads is just amazing.
Yeah.
And I saw a Swans fan complaining somewhere the other week that having the goal songs is cheating. I think that's hilarious.
What? Cheating?
And then someone else was having a whinge on Reddit, I think, that why do they play Country Roads for longer and play it louder than the other songs? Well, I mean, you've only got to listen to the crowd to figure that one out, don't you, mate?
Yeah. And I've been there multiple times when Country Roads is playing, and I know for a fact that they don't play it longer. Maybe louder for sure. I reckon they probably do play it louder, but definitely not longer. That's the crowd singing.
Yeah.
For the extra time.
Yeah, because
the crowd always sings it back to the next chorus, and that usually is after the play is resumed as well.
So my 13, almost 14-year-old daughter was sitting in my lounge room singing along the Country Roads, and she's a very shy, anxious sort of person who doesn't like doing things publicly, unless it's running around a football field tackling girls half her size, because she's like the Taylor Harris of her age group in size, big, tall, muscly, and beats up on boys all the time.
She's a much nicer person than Taylor Harris, though.
Yeah, I have met Taylor Harris, and she is actually nice. I'll give her that. We met her on a train one day, and we were kind of reluctant to approach her, but she saw us wearing Brisbane gear, and this was when she was at Carlton. And she
I was going to say, when was this?
Yeah, she approached us, and she was really, really, really pleasant.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, so I never met her as a Brisbane player one-on-one. So,
unlike a story you told me about another player who I won't mention by name, by a different that plays for a different team. Well, played for a different team. Do you remember that one?
Oh, the one I saw in public, and let's not go there.
Yeah.
Because I've told a few stories about players out in public and stuff.
There was a certain AFLW player that played for a certain Victorian club, and she was quite rude to your kids.
Yeah. We won't go down that road again.
No. But it's good that Harris was good about it. Even
she was good.
Lions anymore.
Yeah, she didn't actually know that Fitzroy existed, but she would have been 20 years old, so she wouldn't have even have grown up in the Fitzroy era at all. So
no, but I mean, how could you play for the club and not know what Fitzroy is?
Yeah, well, I mean, you make a good point, as you often do.
I try my best.
Speaking of the crowd noise as well, which, as I said, was amazing. It was loud, and they love Bruce Revel, don't they?
Oh yeah.
I mean, don't we all?
I wonder if someone's told him that he's not being booed.
Oh, he got asked about it in an interview after his
Oh,
first game,
really? That's good.
and he said he actually loves it.
Okay, good. That's
Yeah,
good to know because I would hate for him to have thought like he couldn't hear it properly and he thought he was getting booed by his own fans. But no, that's good that he knows about it because I've seen a few people online, like particularly like Reddit and stuff, being like, "Why are they booing their own player? Like, what did I miss?" And I'm like,
yeah,
people go, "No, no, no, no." They're saying Bruce.
yeah. A few people were like that, and when Cam Bruce played for Melbourne, there used to be like the Melbourne supporters used to do that as well.
Yeah,
I think he was the only player back then whose name they knew because all the others they used to just go, "Oh, well done, number 11," or
yeah.
"Splendid kick, number 23." And they used to get David Neitz and David Schwartz confused, and he played for their club.
Hmm.
And let's not bring up my Hugh McCluggage situation
Oh
again.
mate, that was a shocker. I'm never gonna let that one go.
And speaking of Hugh McCluggage, what do you make of him being subbed out of the game?
Oh, yeah. Well, look. So we're recording this on a Monday night, so we haven't got the official injury report yet. It was said to have been a precautionary one, and if that's the case, fantastic. We were clearly winning by a lot at that stage. So it's not like we necessarily needed him. And if they thought that he was a risk of, if he was sore and that it was a risk of being a full blown injury if we left him out there, look, I think that's a good call. I mean, that's one of the reasons that the sub's there in the first place.
Yep.
But if it's a hidden injury and they didn't really want to announce that it was an injury, I think I don't like that. I'd rather just come out and say it.
Yeah.
Um,
So I saw him. This is when I thought he's going to get subbed off here. He came off unstrapping his hand. His hand had been strapped up.
yeah.
And I sort of thought, yeah, he's coming. He's the one that's going to get subbed.
Mm,
But the school of thought with that too is like what you were sort of alluding to, I think, is that they're showing no fear in subbing off big guys now. It's not like, oh, well, the first gamer or the fifth gamer or whatever, or the fringe player is going to be the guy that gets subbed off. We're going to back those
yeah.
guys in and say, well, yeah, we're going to bring off one of our best players because we trust these other guys that we've got out there now.
Yeah, well, Neil got subbed early in the season, didn't he? Because they were
Yeah.
like, oh, he's got a bit of tightness or something like that,
Oh, yeah.
or
Look, he,
awareness, as they say.
he had a bit more than awareness, but I think they were just gilding the lily a bit there.
Hmm. And what do
Yeah.
you think about our boy Cal Ah Chee being pictured with ice strapped to his calf after the game?
Yeah, I think you and I were both a bit worried, but then
Hmm.
and my immediate thought was, oh, this is not good. I sent you the photo,
Yeah.
and then as soon as I said it, I thought, you know what, that could just be a precautionary thing.
Oh, maybe, but I think the calf, like, oh,
Yeah,
I don't
because
know.
he's had calf problems over the years,
Yeah,
even before we recruited him as well.
yeah, that's true.
Um, and look, I played cricket with a guy the last 3 seasons who, he was younger than Cal, and after every game, he'd ice himself up on the hamstring.
Yeah,
And
look, I
and
really
yeah,
hope it's precautionary for Cal's sake because, like, he's had so many like small short-term injuries
yeah,
that he can't really get a long run at it. And his talent is unreal. Like you can literally chuck him anywhere and he'll make it work.
yeah. And he did say he got interviewed about his mark, and he sort of came out. And one of the things, this is the only part I'll quote out of it, and it's indirect because I can't remember the exact words, but he just basically said, and this is something like Ryan Lester said about himself a little while
Yeah.
back as well, is that he's never feeling secure about his place in the team. He feels like he's always got to work that little bit harder
Mm.
just to get in the team in the first place, but then maintain his place.
Look,
And
that's good though, I
yeah,
think.
and traditionally when he got injured, he would have to work his way back in over a period of time.
Mm.
Whereas this most recent time, he was back in a week later.
Yeah.
And I like it because, again, it's showing that the club, the selectors, the coaches, the medical people trust him.
Yeah, I agree with that. And look, I don't think that's a bad mentality to have. A lot of people would go, oh, isn't it a shame that he, constantly like feels like he's not safe and he has to work for it and stuff. That should be everyone in professional sport, like
Yeah.
especially team sports, like where you've got someone underneath you who could overthrow you in any second.
Yep.
You should be working like your ass off every week to prove that you earn your spot. I definitely think that there's a few guys in the team, and I won't mention names, but that it's clear that they probably feel a bit comfortable and that they, can have a few bad weeks in a row and it's not going to affect their performance. Whereas there's guys like Cal and Lester, like you said, who they know they'll get dropped if they don't perform. So they work their butts off every week. And
Yeah.
Leicester's been fantastic this season. And you know that I've never been the biggest Leicester fan. And I agree, he has been fantastic this season.
Yeah.
So, and that's
He
because
has.
he knows that he can get overtaken by someone at any minute. So he is working his butt off every week.
Yeah, I think since he came really sort of consistently back into the team midway through last year, he has absolutely earned his place every week. He's had one or two half down games here and there, but yeah. So just a bit of a stats tracker sort of situation. So
yeah,
as a combined team, our disposal efficiency was 81%.
That's really good.
That's amazing. Anything over 65 is amazing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
For a complete team. Goal kicking accuracy, everybody knows what we scored. And how
26 and 7 is pretty incredible. We only got 7 behinds, to be honest.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. And interestingly, the Western Bulldogs kicked 8 goals, 22, and I've not heard a single word about it in the media. They had six goals, 20 at one stage.
Yeah.
They maybe because they won their game, I don't know, but it's funny how they
that's crawling over the line if I've ever seen that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, realistically, they should have beat the Giants by about 70 or 80 points.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Which
and
is
not for a good reason.
It's interesting. So, 4 weeks down the road from when we played Geelong, and it's 3 weeks down the road from when we played the Giants, and they both beat us.
Yeah,
they've both lost 3 games in that period of time.
Well, I mean, Geelong was the last undefeated team for the season, so they've had a really rough couple of weeks.
Yeah, is it possible that we broke both of those teams? Even though
in their wins to us.
Yeah, because that's the whole thing that people in banter groups on Facebook always say. This club broke that club and whatever, and it's like, well, hey, maybe we broke the Giants and the Cats.
Maybe it's not a breaking. Maybe it's just like they caught a bit of our shittiness at the time. It was like contagious, and it's just kind of rubbed off on them when they played us, and then they've gone, back to home, and then they've had a couple of crappy weeks, and we've had some pretty good weeks. So maybe we gave it to them, and we've lost it now.
Have you seen the movie The Green Mile?
Yes, yeah.
It's like when that
John
guy,
Coffey.
Yeah, when he sucks out everybody's illnesses and takes it away from them.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they're doing to us. They're vacuuming away our poor form. And
I can see the memes now.
Yeah.
Fantastic movie as well, by the way.
Oh, yeah, it's brilliant. And I did end up reading the book one day, which did take me a very long time because it's a long book.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing book, amazing movie. I mean, look, anything with Tom Hanks in it is going to be good, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
But the whole cast was an all-star cast. So we had an interesting stat where the turnovers were reasonably close. There was only about probably 5 or 6 in it between the two teams.
Mm-hmm.
But we, at one stage, and I stopped keeping track of it, probably sometime early in the final quarter, we'd kicked 9 goals, something from turnover.
Yeah.
Richmond were on 0-0. It was like complete opposite of the week before, but amplified.
Their turnovers were shocking, and some of the really horrendous ones came from some of their best players.
Yeah, and it was quite interesting because, like, from clearances, like all the 3 different variations of clearances that they categorise now, we were pretty even. It was fairly close for both teams.
Yep.
But you kind of felt like we won those stoppages more.
Yep.
It was more noticeable, even though the stats say that it was pretty even.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, Richmond had more tackles and they had more 1%ers, which both of those things did drop off late in the game.
Yeah.
But, look, I guess when you're the team that doesn't have the ball as often, even though I don't think that there was that, it's probably about 60 disposals difference between the two teams. And look, I'm probably wrong, but that's just me trying to remember what I read on the AFL app the other day.
Well, I remember there was a there was a time in the game, must have been either second or third quarter, where they, as in Richmond, had an incredible run with tackles. I think it was like 8 in really quick succession, but
Yeah,
they didn't get any payoff for those tackles. So, and I think the motivation kind of just dropped off from them from there, and
yeah,
their efforts kind of fell down, and their tackling wasn't as high for the rest of the game after that point.
yeah. And look, you're always going to get more tackles, I guess, when you don't have the ball in your hand.
Yeah, of course.
And of course, when you've got the ball in your hand, you're not going to tackle someone. So yeah, it makes
Well,
sense.
it's illegal for you with the ball to tackle a player.
Yeah,
So,
that's the
of
point.
course.
That's the point I make to a lot of nuffies on social media sometimes. And I remember someone complaining that Dane Beams had no tackles for a game, and I was saying, well, we had it 38 times in the pill. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, tackling's down, but we have 100 more uncontested possessions than they do.
yeah. So we had 98 more marks than them. They only had 66 marks for the game.
Yeah.
And that's terrible for them. But
They're always much more of a handballing team, though, aren't they? Because they love that quick play of transition from the back.
yeah, like
through
they
handballs.
started going to that kick mark game for a while, but I guess they don't have as many tools in their lineup as what they did have.
No.
But yeah, look, that definitely advantaged us. Our kick mark game, there's no doubt about it. And yeah, we led for 127 minutes of the game, which is quite good.
Yep.
Considering games are supposedly only 120 minutes long.
I was going to say, I don't think there'd be any other time in that game, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to quickly read something out.
Okay.
We don't have to comment on it. We can just leave it with the listeners to make up their own story. When I find it, I've got to go the other way. I'll scroll the other way. No, I'm not on Tinder, folks. I'm looking through my screenshots. All right, this is something somebody wrote somewhere in a Richmond group. It's a Richmond supporter.
Sure.
And I'll just correct the spelling and grammar a little bit so it makes a bit more sense. How does a team that won 3 premierships in 4 years and still have most of the premiership players in the last decade come to this? How does a player with 3 normies in a Brownlow with 3 clear shots at goal in the last minutes of the first quarter hospital pass to teammates and lose the chance to be 3 goals down instead of 6? Something is rotten in AFL house. Go West Tigers. I'd rather follow a competition that isn't as fixed as WWE wrestling. Don't worry, Richmond, I'll still pay my membership and maybe one day the match fixing at the highest level will stop. Just for the record, if we had lost by 5 goals or less, it wouldn't be so obvious. Are we wearing our tinfoil hats here or what?
Oh, man, I'll never take mine off. Match fixing?
Yeah, Dustin Martin's involved in match fixing, allegedly.
Look, it's not even a final or anything. Like, if they, that's bonkers, mate.
Yeah, it is.
For what reason would that ever happen? Like, like I've had my conspiracies on, in the past, and I love a good tinfoil hat more than the next guy, but that is some serious coping from a Richmond fan right there.
Yeah, apparently there was a few microwave membership microwave videos going around as well.
Yeah,
they must have been microwaving old years memberships because
I was going to say they don't give out those anymore.
Yeah, they're going to put their card in the microwave. All right, I can hear you. I can hear you yawning. So we'll.
Sorry, I tried to cover it.
That's all right. I'm going to hold over Media Watch for later in the week.
Okay.
Because I've got way too much stuff in there that I want to whinge about.
Yep.
I just want to quickly bring 2 aspects of it up. So this narrative of every time Harris Andrews keeps his opponent to belly and he kicks that that guy's playing a defensive role on him.
Yeah, that's a weird one. And I've noticed that popping up the last couple of weeks a lot.
Give it a spell, media. We know that's not what's happening. The guy that he's playing on just can't get near it because Harris Andrews is playing a ripper game and he's in All-Australian contention. So give it a spell. It's getting boring. No one cares anymore. No one wants to hear it.
Yeah, that AAA jacket is getting it's getting more secure on his shoulders every week.
Yeah, I believe so too. So I had not had an instance of hearing Matt Hill, the race caller, commentate on the football yet this year.
Mm.
And everybody had been raving about how good he is. And look, I agree, he's smooth and he's articulate. But look, I found that he didn't really excite me the way he's been exciting everyone else. I, I did feel like I was listening to horse racing.
I didn't even really notice much, to be honest.
Well, he didn't commentate our game. He commentated another game.
Oh, well, there you go. Oh,
Yeah.
is he the guy that, because there was, I saw a clip online about a baby race. Did you see that?
No, but
I think it was either Essendon or Demon Colours that all the babies were dressed up in, but they had these little lanes on the field. It must have been like a halftime show or something like that, or maybe pre-game. And they had like six babies, and they had them race like 2 meters or something, but crawling to their parents from either end. And then someone was calling it, and I think it was that guy that you just mentioned.
yeah. And look, he's a good race caller. He's done a lot of Melbourne Cups and that sort of thing. Yeah, I did. I thought he was okay, but I didn't think he was. I mean, maybe just because he's a point of difference to the usual dribble we get from the majority of them.
There's only really like one instance in AFL where someone who's a race caller would do well, and it's like that Buddy Franklin ran down the whole field and then kicked that goal on the run,
Yeah,
like that kind of instance, which doesn't happen very often because that was a pretty incredible thing that
yeah,
only Lance Franklin and Eric Hipwood have ever done.
yeah. Gotta love the comparisons they used to get.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I think Buddy was asked in an interview once, what do you think of the comparisons Eric Hipwood's having with you? And he changed the subject because I don't think.
Oh, he didn't go who?
No, look, I'm sure he knows who Hipwood is. I mean, look, that's no disrespect to Eric Hipwood, but Buddy's he's pretty special.
Yeah, Buddy's buddy, mate.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that. So I'll get into weird stats. I've only got 3 this week that I brought up.
Sure.
So the leaders. So Joel Selwood, and I already kind of mentioned this. Joel Selwood mentioning that Pickett was doing a defensive role on Harris Andrews. He said that 7 times.
Yeah, that's lazy commenting.
Yeah, and Joel Selwood as well. And look, I like Joel Selwood. I think he's a pretty stand-up sort of citizen and a
Your mate.
great footballer. And he did ask me how I was going when I was sitting outside a cafe once and had gravy all over my face from eating a roast meat and gravy roll.
No, he didn't say how you going. He said, "Do you need help?"
I wasn't, mate. I didn't have dribble running down my chin. He's walking past, he's like, "How you going, mate?" I'm like, "Okay." But then, yeah, he also ran with Harry Sharps, set the record for the 4K run at the draft combine 6 times.
Yep.
And something that happened, well, you can write your own ticket on how many times this happened, and that was Marley and Pickett doing something dirty.
Oh, geez. Yeah, how many times did I message you during the game and just was filthy about him?
Yeah, we had some interesting exchanges about
I can't stand him.
old Marley, and yeah.
Cannot stand him. Look,
Yeah.
there's been I don't know if he's related to a lot of the other Pickets in the competition.
So I think Byron is his uncle and Cozzy
Okay.
is his cousin, I think.
A lot of them have been upstand great fellas, but
Yeah.
Marlon is just not like he's just the apple fell off the tree and rolled down the street with him,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah. And and this is, well, I mean, we don't need to talk about what he has or hasn't done or whatever. We all know what it is. It's on the public record, and that's not really up for us to comment on. But yeah, I judge him basically only purely on what he does on a football field. I don't rate him as an AFL footballer. I think he got overrated for that one little thing he did in that grand final.
Yeah.
And he's a dirty player, and even a lot of Richmond supporters say the same thing and have said openly that they wish he wasn't at their club for that reason. So,
Yep, I cannot stand him. Less said, the better.
yeah. So, all right. Have you got anything else you want to add before we go into ticks and crosses?
Not at this stage. No, I think a lot of it's been covered.
All right. So, you want to jump into your ticks then?
Yeah, sure.
Right. Hit me.
All right. So, look, a few of these we've already kind of touched on just because we had a general waffle about the actual game itself.
Well, it is what we do here.
That's exactly right. So you mentioned one of these, and I was going to say it, but I left it till the end. So you mentioned 12 individual goal scorers. That's
Yep.
a fantastic effort. And then for two of them to actually kick, bags as well is also incredible.
Yeah.
And from one of them I don't think either of us would have ever guessed would have kicked a bag. Obviously, Kai Lohmann is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, look, he kicked a few in a VFL game, but yeah, this is a bit of a different situation. And in the AFL, he's not the man up
Yeah,
forward.
like I've
Yeah.
had big raps on him since we drafted him.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that he would be a 5 goal kind of guy, at least this early. I thought maybe 2 or 3, and that would have been a fantastic game from him.
Oh,
But
yeah.
5 is unreal.
Yeah, that was amazing. And yeah, it was but it's not just his goal kicking, it's his intensity around a contest. It's the second efforts, the follow ups,
He's smart. He's always there. Like it seems like he can just appear out of nowhere.
and he's ferocious as well. Like he's
He's
always
a good tackler.
he's always on the attack. He's never he's but even he's attacking when he's doing defensive things, he's attacking at the same time. He's like a Dane Zorko.
Yeah, Zane Dorko.
Yeah, Zane Dorko, the little Jack Russell Terrier.
Yeah.
All right, next one.
Yep, second tick. So a big belting win. It's obviously our biggest win of the season. We've gone into the history. We touched on that before about the two separate clubs and the merged clubs histories and where it ranked among those. But for what we've had for the rest of this season, it was really good to get a big win like that. It was good for the fans, and I'm sure it was bloody good for the boys to get the confidence of a big belting win like that. Because even the North Melbourne win, we kicked a pretty massive score against them, but it still was nothing like what we did on Saturday night.
Yeah,
so it's good confidence builder for the boys, and
it is
something to look forward to for the fans as well.
Yep.
The next one is it was good to get some payback on Richmond. Specifically over the last few years, it's been quite a mirror of where we're at and where they've been at and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, sure, they won their 3 flags and all that sort of stuff, but now that they're coming down, geez, they were pretty cocky during those years, weren't they? And it's good to get a bit of payback on them, particularly because of how I can deal with not being successful, and I can deal with other clubs being successful, but it's how cocky they go about it that bothers me. And there's been a few clubs in a few different areas that that tick that box, but it was good to get one over in Richmond.
Definitely, yeah. And I think it's even more so to fans that turned people off Richmond than the players themselves.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, success breeds arrogance. You've got to be arrogant to be successful.
That's true.
Some take it further than they need to.
And so I've got so my fourth one is depth. So it was really good to see some of our better performances on the night were from guys that I wouldn't have expected to step up and have such a big game. So obviously I touched on Kai Lohmann, but I Bruce Revel had some fantastic moments as well.
Yeah.
Shadow Brahim was a bit quiet, but I mean, he wasn't on for a full game.
No.
So can't really judge him on that. Still waiting for him to have, to be a starter to, fully judge his performances.
Yeah, and I hope that does happen in the coming weeks too.
Yeah, me too. But you guys like Sharp and guys who haven't necessarily, and Logan Morris and things like that, guys who we wouldn't have thought would have come into the team at this stage, let alone have had the impact that they've had. So it's really good to know that the amount of depth that we have in the team is there. I mean, we was always rumored to be there. The VFL team's done pretty well in the last couple of years, but to actually see those guys come into the senior team and have those performances has been really good.
Yeah, and Sharpie's been really self-assured. Like he looks confident. He backs himself in, and he gets the results. Like he's kicked a few goals and whatever as well. So yeah, no, it's been a good return by Sharpie.
Yeah, and just a reminder to the listeners as well. So we only have 5 players on our list now that have never played a senior game. So that's a pretty good rotation that we've gone through to use a lot of the guys on our list at this stage.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. And then number 5, you're going to call me a nuffy for this one. But Cal Ah Chee,
Ah,
right?
mate, we're both nuffies here, so nuffs are gonna nuff, aren't
I
they?
just love the guy. He's just so good. That mark, he never gives up. Look, he's not my player of the week this week, and we'll
No,
get to that. But I just wanted to make special note of him specifically, just because he's just great. He's
yeah,
just so good.
he's so lovable, isn't he?
He is like I love him on and off the field. But I like the value of a player like that on your list is just uncalculable. Like
Yeah,
he can pop up anywhere, he can do anything. And I just wish that his body would hold together a bit more than it has in the last couple of years. But well, actually, pretty much for his whole career, because like you said before, at the Suns, he had some pretty bad luck with his body too. But
yeah,
he's just a big tick. Like he never stops trying. You know, we through this whole season when we had, it took a lot of guys several games to kind of feel like they were, getting going with their efforts and all that sort of stuff. He was the guy that from the first game was giving it 100% every week. And I knew I could count on him every week for that. So big
yeah,
tick.
yeah. We did bring that up a lot early in the season too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to add an additional tick, and that's and I do this every year because I mean it. It's from the heart. Our
Hmm.
Indigenous jumpers every year are amazing. I love them.
Yeah.
And the story, if you don't know the story behind it, get on the club socials.
Hmm.
There's a really good explanation that does a better job than what I can
Yeah.
to explain what it all means. But I just love it. Look, to be honest, I remember commenting to someone over the course of the weekend, and Richmond were the only club that didn't wear one, to my knowledge,
Mm.
which they're saving theirs for the Dreamtime game, apparently.
Yeah, that's this coming week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I remember commenting to a friend of mine that pretty much everybody's except for the Western Bulldogs looked amazing. The
Mm.
Bulldogs one looked a little bit plain, in my opinion, but look, it was still good. But I really
Yeah.
loved ours. Ours just really, and probably more so because it's ours. But I love the Swans one. The Swans had
Mm.
one of those less is more approaches where there wasn't a great deal of detail, but what the detail they had was really well done.
I liked our one, but it wasn't my favorite one because I always look out for them every year, and I always think that they're always pretty excellent.
Yeah.
There was one a couple of years ago where it had like it faded up to like the night sky.
Yes.
That's my all-time favorite one.
So
That was beautiful, that one.
if I swing around, I actually have one hanging off my bookshelf.
Yeah. Was that 2018 or 19 or something like that?
It was when Alan Christensen was still on the list because he designed that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, look,
And
it's my all-time favorite.
we have one hanging up here, and it's signed by every Indigenous player the club's had since that year, except for Blake Coleman.
Right.
But I will be able to get Blake to sign it at a VFL game sometime this year, I reckon.
Well, he plays for Williamstown, doesn't he?
Correct.
Well,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, you might
Yeah.
be able to swing that one.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my daughter's jumper, not mine. I've had to really fight it to get it put up on my little display shelf behind at the back of my office here behind where I sit.
Yeah. Oh, and
Um,
another note on the jumper that they actually wore this time. It was designed by one of Charlie's relatives, I think he said
yes,
during
that's
a press
correct. Yeah,
conference.
one of his cousins, I believe.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah,
good. That's good.
yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, and look, all the clubs do a great job of these days of really getting behind the Indigenous culture, and I know there's a lot of boomers and empty heads that get triggered by it, but you know what? Bad luck. If you don't
Yeah, I'm
like,
not
if you,
not sure whether it's to get bothered by it.
yeah,
You know.
you know, like Indigenous culture is Australian culture.
Yep.
Indigenous footballers and their history have provided so much joy to everybody, except for obviously the people that get triggered,
Yeah,
which is a very small minority, I must say.
that's right.
Um, and when I sit back at the end of my days when I'm nearly done, and I look back at the greatest footballers I've ever seen, there's going to be a lot of Indigenous players in there, and
Yeah.
rightly so.
Oh, there's been some phenomenal ones over the years, hasn't there?
Yes, that's correct. All right, so we better move on to the crosses now.
Yep.
I could not find a single cross to give our club this week.
Oh, that's a cop out, Ash.
No, I honestly, I sat there and I procrastinated for about 2 hours,
Yep.
and I could not come up with a single thing. And that probably sounds a little bit hysterical or whatever, but whatever.
Look,
So,
it was a magnificent game, and we don't get magnificent games like that very often, so that's
yeah,
fair enough.
correct. It's a bit of an outlier for a supporter of any club any week to not be able to pick anything out at all. It doesn't happen very often. So my first cross is Richmond. That's just a cross.
Yep, fair enough.
Second one is Marlene Pickett. We've talked enough about him, too much already. My third cross is the Richmond fans on the socials. Half time, my visitor was on having a look on their pages because they were trying to find out why Richmond were wearing black armbands, and all they could find were people wanting everybody sacked, wanting Adam Muse sacked because he can't coach, and this and that. And then, of course, that one I read out before, the conspiracy theory one.
Yep.
A big cross, and I'm sympathetic here because we know how it feels, but not quite to this extent, is Richmond's horror run with injury.
Yeah, true that.
Like, they just can't take a trick, and like you don't want to kick someone when they're down. You know what I mean?
No.
And we are suffering with injuries, but nowhere near the way they are.
I'd say like they really got a few key players in.
Yeah, in pure numbers though, they're going to have 24 guys to pick from this week.
Yeah.
So yeah, as from a pure numbers point of view, they're doing it worse than anyone else. I guess quality of players that are out, maybe we are a little bit worse off. But
do you remember a few years ago with Richmond? They had a game where they lost so many guys that they had no one on the bench, and there was one player short on the field. They had 17 playing because they had so many injuries.
Yeah, was that against Essendon?
I can't recall, but I just remember thinking how phenomenal that was.
Yeah, I reckon it was against Essendon, and they still won. Maybe. Look, I could be completely wrong.
You could be right. I mean, that just says a lot about Essendon, doesn't it?
It sounds like an Essendon thing to do, doesn't it? And yeah, my last cross is Dustin Martin. I think he probably should have retired at the end of last year. He's cooked.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny you say that. I heard so many rumours about him going to the Gold Coast. Even now.
Yeah.
He's apparently going there on big bucks next year. I don't think so, mate.
He's cooked. He really is.
Done. Yeah, he's done.
Yeah, he's going to be one of the most decorated footballers of my lifetime, and
he's clearly trying to drag through to the 300, which is apparently only a couple of matches away.
Yeah, and that might not be him. That could be the club. Could be Uze saying, "Look, let's get you over the line," and yeah, probably
they know they'll sell a lot of tickets for that match wherever it is. Wherever it is.
Look, considering his body of work and whatever, he does deserve to get to the 300. And then after that, well, it's anyone's game, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Like Tom Hawkins at the Cats broke their record for the most games ever played, and got managed the following week. So, yeah, good. Yeah, good on him for a good career. He's done. He's put a fork in him.
Yep, for sure. Nothing left in the tank there.
Yeah, at all. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get on to players that are good. Or maybe a player. We might agree for a rare occasion this week.
True.
Or we might not, because I don't know who you picked. So who was your player of the week?
Look, I think we probably will agree. Maybe I picked Kai Lohmann.
Yeah, same.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Yeah, there you go.
I don't think
how could you not, though?
Yeah, you can make cases for one or two other guys, but at the end of the day, like, he's not the guy that won it on his own because he didn't need to.
No.
But he's the guy that jumped out and said, "Look at me. I'm here. I've arrived."
Yeah, and I mean, look, out of all the guys that we would have expected to, have fantastic games, we mentioned, Charlie Cameron and Joe Danaher. We mentioned, Rayner. We mentioned Zorko. We mentioned Neil. Don't think anyone was thinking this is the week that Kai Lohmann's going to show the AFL world what he's got,
No.
and it was. So
And he did it. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that gets him, 2 votes on our leaderboard. Probably he jumps up about 6 or 7 places all in his first week on the leaderboard.
Yeah. So what was that? Yeah, I was going to say that's the first time he's been on there for the year, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, right. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a fantastic game though. So
Yeah, it was. Look,
hard to deny.
Yeah, I think pretty much in general, anytime he's played a full game this year, he's been great.
Yep.
But yeah, he stepped up to a couple of levels higher in this game.
Yeah, it's incredible what you're capable of when you're allowed to play 4 quarters instead of just one. Hey.
Yeah, that's right. All right, have you got time to hang around for a quick VFL chat?
Yeah.
All right.
If it's very quick, yep.
Yeah, well, you didn't watch it, so I
No.
didn't watch all of it. I've watched snippets. So yeah, I found it quite interesting. We were down at every change.
Okay.
And we held the D's to 1 point in the last quarter. I don't know if we can call them the D's because they're the Casey Demons, not the Melbourne Demons, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And like we're pretty inaccurate in front of goal again. But how often is a team going to come out and say, "Well, we were behind at 3/4 time, kicked 1 goal 7 in the last quarter, and we won"?
Yeah.
Like that's just such a Brisbane thing to do.
Yeah. I'm looking at the stats here. There's some really strange stuff going on.
Yeah.
So I don't know how the stats were, how they record the stats, but it says that every single player for both teams spent 100% of the time on the ground. So that shows that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, look, there was there was some weird stuff going because every player was listed twice as well.
Yeah, so strange.
On the stats tracker. So, as always, Jared Lyon's got a lot of the ball.
34 disposals.
Yeah, Dev Robbo got a bit. Jimmy Tunstall, he got big numbers as well. But I, at the moment, can't see a place for them in the senior team, any one of them.
Yep.
And as you know, I was big on Tunstall earlier in the year.
True. Yeah, he's fallen off a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think he did anything wrong when he was in the AFL team.
No, he was a bit unceremoniously dumped. And then maybe that's kind of affected his morale a bit. I mean, he got 28. That's not bad at all. But he doesn't appear like he's bobbing up for selection again.
And in an ugly, low-scoring game, 28's probably worth 36 in a normal game. Taj Aberley was pretty good again. From what I saw, he's pretty high up in the ranking points as well. So that shows he's doing a lot of the little things that people like us don't generally see.
Yep.
Kyle Dunkley, pretty good, 12 marks. So that's pretty handy.
Yeah. So obviously brother of Josh, but also he's a former AFL player as well. So
yeah,
that doesn't surprise me that he's one of our best VFL players each week.
Yeah, that's right. And and Darragh Joyce, who looks like he's coming along a bit now with some consistency of selection. I don't think when he was at St Kilda, he got picked too many times for too many games. No. Whereas he's playing every week for us in one team or the other.
Yeah.
15 marks he took, which, that's phenomenal.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, Jake Lohmann did all right. My boy Ewan McPherson, who I raised after the first game as number 54, who I've never heard of. I thought he was pretty good from what I saw. Playing down back. Brendan Ryan, in my opinion, didn't do enough to get a call up to replace Eric Hipwood. So
no, I heard people talking about that on a few podcasts and some socials and stuff like that, but I just haven't seen it so far.
So that leaves a bit of a question mark over that we will get into, I guess. Well, we'll know by the time we record our next episode. We'll know who's in.
Yeah.
Same like Luke Lloyd, Reece Torrent, Cullen Lane. I didn't feel like they were bashing the door down either.
Not really, no.
So someone who did suit up for us and kicked 3 goals.
And I was wondering if you were going to mention this one. Yeah.
Remember I said earlier I was going to bring up a mid-season prospective player.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, Daniel Lloyd.
Yes. It's an interesting one for sure.
Yeah. And it's funny because there's all this talk in the media where they're saying, well, the club has to get permission to draft him. Well, no, the
Mm.
club does not have to get permission to draft him because he fully qualifies under the rules of the mid-season draft. Having been previously listed on an AFL list, what the club needs permission for is to how they're going to shuffle his salary because he's currently employed in another role.
Right.
Which now North Melbourne did the same thing with the Adelaide Tom Lynch a couple of years ago. They had him employed as a assistant coach and as a VFL player.
Yeah.
And AFL approved it and it didn't affect the soft cap. And this is exactly the one thing that Brisbane's doing with Daniel Lloyd now. It's got nothing to do with them needing permission to draft him. So media and fans of other clubs, go and read the rules on the mid-season draft.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I definitely heard that he needed to play a minimum of 3 VFL games to be eligible, and he wouldn't have ticked that off by the time the draft comes around. So you're saying that's not right?
No, I looked at it. There was 3 rules, and that wasn't one of them.
Interesting.
And that was on the
that
AFL
was John
website.
Ralph. That was John Ralph that said that.
They must have nominated for the 2023 draft, or previously been on a list, or there was one other one, and it wasn't that.
Interesting. So you think there's still a chance then?
Well, he's previously been on an AFL list. He qualifies.
Yeah.
Full stop. And it was the same. So when there was talk about Gary Ablett Jr. going back to Geelong a year or so after he retired.
Yeah.
And it was, well, he qualifies because he's previously been on a list.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how that works.
He'd be handy.
Yeah.
Good. 3 goals, and I think it was even the first quarter that he kicked them in.
Yeah, good footballer. And from what I remember from him playing at the Giants, was really highly rated as a leader as well.
Yeah.
And I want to bring up one last little thing. It's to do with, I wrote Melbourne because, it's Melbourne, Casey, whatever.
Same.
But this is applicable because it's Melbourne. Melbourne's best player, ironically, had a hyphenated name. And that is as Melbourne as you can get.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's my rapid of VFL. You got anything you want to bring in?
No, I was just going to touch on Daniel Lloyd, but if you didn't do it, but yeah, you did. So,
yep.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Maybe we should touch on the mid-season, not this week, but maybe next week or the week after. We should touch on what we think is going to happen with the mid-season draft.
Yeah,
Danny Daly definitely said we're going to pick up at least 2 players. We have 4 spots really long-term spots that we could give out, but
yep.
He said that we're going to take a minimum of 2. So clearly he's got someone in mind.
Yeah.
So we could do some rampant speculation on that one. That could be fun.
Yeah, maybe Buddy Franklin's coming out of retirement.
Him and Cyril.
I'd love to have Junior Boy at the club even now. He's played a few games for the TV Bombers over the last year or so as well.
Oh, he would have kicked 13 a game, wouldn't he?
Nah, he's I think he's just out there helping his cousins.
Yeah.
Become better footballers and better people.
Yeah.
Because he's just an amazing human being. And I lost my train of thought about something else I was going to bring up before that.
That's all right. I think that's pretty much it for now.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say. So we've held over the mailbag and the media watch for this week, for this episode. We'll bring them out in the next one. So the next episode, we probably won't have much time to talk about the mid-season stuff.
No, maybe we can do it at the bye, but then at that stage, will we have already done the draft of the bye? I'm not sure.
Yeah, mate. We've got a few episodes between now and then.
Sure.
But yeah, so I did send you the mailbag stuff before.
Yeah,
so
I got that.
Just hang on to that. There's probably some more stuff coming. And in fact, there is more stuff on that exact topic coming through the socials. I had a few notifications come up.
Geez, that's a lot of feedback. I'm just reading through it now. That's a lot. That's good.
And we've passed. We've almost hit just on Spotify alone. We're just under the 11,000 listens and downloads mark now as well.
That's incredible.
And again, we were getting people listening to old episodes during the game the other night.
Really?
Yeah, and we had that during the Melbourne game as well.
I wonder if it's people are just so frustrated with commentary that they're like, I'm just going to chuck something, Lions related on.
Yeah.
just listen to that with a lot of footies going.
Yeah. I mean, look, it could be like, I know, like going to and from the grand final and just having lunch on grand final day and that sort of thing. Last year, I was listening to, soaking up every Lions related content on podcasts, the Raw Deal and the Fancast, and then like that one Tom Rockcliffe does for that company we don't speak of, and and Brandy's podcast, which is, I think it's the only time I've listened to a full episode.
Yeah.
Because he has Campbell Brand on it, who I don't like. So
it's pretty incredible to think that, we are that source for some other people. Like, it's pretty incredible to think about. Because I'm the same. I listen to all of those other Lions podcasts. And I always interact with them and give them good feedback and stuff like that. So it's incredible, and we're grateful that we have so many people that want to listen to us every week. I'm sure that there's every week there's a first-time listener and all that sort of stuff. But there's a lot of people that listen every week, and we're so grateful for that.
Yeah, that's right. And what we've started getting now too is we've started getting a few people putting the pressure on us to, hey, we haven't heard your selection episode yet. We don't know who's in the team. And
so we were supposed to record last night, but one of my kids was projectile vomiting all over the house, so I had to deal with that. So we had to postpone it. But yeah, there was a few people reaching out, going, "Come on, where is it?"
Yeah, and like I was getting all these notifications coming in for people viewing the page, like the Facebook page and that as well, because and looking on the TikTok, which the TikTok we put out other content on, like little side stuff. But yeah, I was kind of like, oh, the pressure's on here. We've got to get this done.
I know, got to give the people what they want, mate.
Yeah, that's it. We're men of the people.
That's it.
All right, let's call it a night. And this will be out on Tuesday evening.
Yep.
Which by the time you listen to it, that will be Tuesday evening. And we have a Sunday game, so we'll probably do a Friday night episode.
Yeah, that makes sense. By the extended bench.
Yep, and I will, as long as nothing goes wrong, knocking on wood, I will be at the game this Sunday at Marvel Stadium as well.
Beauty.
And you may have noticed I've said nothing about Hawthorn this week because I'm scared to. I don't want to have it come back to me.
Well, that's what we we've got the preview episode on Friday to deal with all that stuff anyway.
Yeah, but I'm sure their own fans have had a bit to say about what happened to them on the weekend. So yeah, they don't need us to chime in either. So all right,
that's it.
Have a good one, and hope your daughter's well, and the rest of your family as well, of course.
Yeah, no, we're all good now. She's back to school tomorrow. She just had the one day off, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so everything's all good now. But yeah, I look forward to talking to you again on Friday. And that injury list is pretty good tomorrow. Hopefully Zach Bailey's back. Yeah,
that'd be great. And just for those who have reached out about my dad as well, he's going in on the 29th for a surgical procedure to hopefully fix once and for all the medical problem he's having. So fingers crossed for that. And it's his birthday on Friday. He's a sprightly 74-year-old this Friday. So happy birthday, old man.
Yeah, and all the best for the operation, mate. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave it at that. And we'll talk later in the week.
Until next time.
Good on you, mate. Cheers.
See ya.
See ya.